In 2013, I made a decision that completely changed the course of my life. I decided to stop watching useless YouTube videos, stop binge watching TV shows, just stop consuming content that doesn't benefit me. My first ever proper habit back in 2013 was to consume 2 hours of educational content a day. And this could be listening to audiobooks, listening to podcasts, reading books, or watching documentaries. The content format didn't matter, but what made this so powerful was that I was downloading knowledge into my brain for a good 2 solid hours a day, every single day. Genuinely, no exaggeration, life-changing. Implement a habit of consuming 2 hours of solid, quality educational content a day and watch your life change. Seriously. I've coached hundreds, probably even thousands at this point, of students in my Transform Your Grades course and the Productivity Algorithm course. And I often ask my students, how many hours in the day did you waste? And how many days in the week did you waste? And the answer I normally get is about 4 to 6 hours a day is wasted on things that just aren't helping in the long term, like watching YouTube, watching Netflix, social media, that kind of thing. So let's say you waste 4 hours every day doing mundane things. That's about 20 hours a week, or 112 hours a month, or approximately 1,344 hours a year. Let me know in the comments if I've got any of those calculations wrong. So let's say if your time is worth $10 an hour, which is a very kind of low estimation in a developed country. Your time is probably worth far more than that, but let's say for argument's sake it's $10 an hour, so you're wasting over $13,000 a year, and that's a lot of money you're wasting, and you're wasting that right now. It's not just the obvious things like the number of hours you're wasting watching daft videos on YouTube, but the majority of us live so inefficiently. And I'm no exception here. The last couple of months I co-founded a new company, and so I've been thinking about this quite a lot. How can I make my life more efficient and achieve significantly more in the same amount of time? So one way is by using this video's sponsor, NordPass. NordPass is a secure way to remember your usernames and passwords. And it's funny because just a few weeks ago, I had a conversation with the team of another company I recently co-founded about 2 months ago, and I was genuinely surprised how few people in the team actually use password managers. I was like, are you crazy? I started using a password manager maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and I couldn't imagine not using one now. It's one of those tools where once you start using it, you never go back. We use a lot of shared accounts within the team, and having those usernames and passwords stored in documents or sending them over Slack or email is a liability and time consuming, but using NordPass is far more efficient because we can store those login details securely in one place. NordPass also has its own password generator to make sure your accounts are protected with super strong passwords, and they also have a password health checker that makes sure your passwords are not weak, reused, or older than 90 days. But my favorite feature, above all the features NordPass have, is the data breach scanner. The scanner automatically scans leaked databases, and it will let you know if you're using unsafe passwords. And this feature saved me a fair few years ago now, because I was using an old password over like 5 or 6 different accounts, but my password manager flagged it up. There was a big data breach in 2012 where a very well-known cloud storage company was hacked and 68 million user passwords were leaked. And one of those 68 million passwords was my password, and I would never have known that my password was compromised if I didn't use a password manager. So it's a perfect example of how NordPass basically take care of the security of your accounts so you can focus on what really matters. See NordPass Business in action now with a 3-month free trial at nordpass.com/ProjectElon with the code ProjectElon. I really recommend you start using a password manager if you don't already. Number 1, for security, and number 2, just for the sheer amount of time that it saves you. Because what would happen if you just stopped wasting your time? What if you started working super efficiently and you dropped all the unproductive things you do during the day that don't make you any smarter, they don't make you any wiser or stronger or help you towards your goals in the long run, and your day suddenly opened right up with an extra 5 hours? What could you do in those 5 hours? It's almost limitless. And John Peterson talks a fair bit on this, on what could happen if you take those time-sucking tasks out of your daily schedule.
So if your life isn't everything it could be, you could ask yourself, well, what would happen if you just stopped wasting the opportunities that are in front of you? You'd be, who knows how much more efficient? 10 times more efficient, 20 times more efficient. That's the Pareto distribution. You have no idea how efficient people get. It's off the chart.
Jocko Willink mentioned in one of his podcasts a while ago, success and failure are generally slow processes, either slowly building things up or slowly tearing them down. And that's why you have to pay attention. You have to watch every second, because those seconds, they turn into minutes, and the minutes turn into hours, and the hours turn into days, and the days turn into years. So let's say you spend 2 hours watching YouTube, and not watching videos that are good for you, but watching in that kind of mindless way that people do when they're not really paying attention. They're just wanting to waste time. How about you try this to start off with? How about you watch a documentary for 2 hours instead? Something that you're genuinely interested in, or maybe something that you're studying. If you're studying economics, then watch a documentary on the US-China trade wars. If you're studying medicine, then watch a documentary on the COVID pandemic. At least you'll be learning something, at least it's educational, and it will be building you up. The term "you are what you eat" is thrown around quite a lot, but in my opinion, it's also true that you are what you consume. We are products of our environment. We are what we watch. We are what we listen to. We are what we think about all day. So you need to program your mind, and you do that by the content that you consume. So instead of listening to music on your commute, you listen to a podcast, you listen to an audiobook, or subjects that are in line with the life that you want to create. And if you remove that 2 hours of wasted time binge watching pointless videos on YouTube, and instead you replace it with 2 hours of content consumption in a subject that will actually benefit you down the line, a subject that you want to be an expert in, a subject that you can build a career around, within 2 or 3 years, you can relatively easily be in the top 5% of your industry. Because once you get out of the mindset of trying to kill time on Instagram or trying to kill time on YouTube, and instead you use those social media platforms and start investing that time on building yourself up and making yourself more knowledgeable, smarter, and more inspired, it will dramatically improve the quality of your life in terms of your happiness, in terms of your health, your finances, the relationships around you. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Start following people that inspire you. Subscribe to YouTube channels that pump you up rather than kind of suck your energy out all the time. Surround yourself with a digital network that encourage you to become the best version of yourself. Because what happens if you don't? What happens if every day you kind of continue to just throw hours of your day out of the window? Well, there's short-term consequences and there's long-term consequences. So the short-term consequences, you feel bad, right? It's uncomfortable knowing that you're kind of just wasting your life. You've been given this one life. You've been put on this earth to achieve incredible things, but you just go and waste it. It doesn't feel good. And then the long-term consequences, you might, fail your exams. You don't get into the university you wanted to go to. You end up with a mediocre job or a mediocre career and live just above the poverty line, just like a lot of people do. Because if you're wasting so much time when you're this young, who's to say you're going to change that habit in 5 or 10 years' time when you're actually working? And if you continue to waste your time, I mean, you know how bad it can get. You failed exams because you didn't use your time efficiently. You've had relationships negatively affected because of this. You know the opportunities you've missed because you spent so much time procrastinating. You know how bad it can get. And I'm so passionate about this message. I'm trying to kind of get this message across that we should at least consider stopping just mindlessly letting life pass us by, because I've lived most of my life like that up until about 9 years ago, when I made that decision to sort my life out and live more intentionally and start putting more effort in. I realized that the more effort I put in, the more I put into life, the more I get out of it. But in many ways, I'm glad that I wasted a lot of my youth spending 14 hours a day playing video games, neglecting my studying, living life in a very kind of passive way, because I learned so much along the way. I know how bad it can get. I was a little bit late getting into the game, but I was still young, my late teens, early 20s, when I started to kind of make that transition from being unmotivated and unproductive and wasting so much of my life to actually getting back on track and putting in the work and making things happen. And now I'm so much more motivated to teach others not to live their life like I lived it for so long, because honestly, it's depressing. It's such a waste, and I'm kind of wanting to use the transformation that I've made in my own life and try and inspire others to also make that same transformation too. So I think one of the most effective things you can do to cut out all the inefficient and useless tasks that we do during the day is to strategically create and implement high performance habits into our lives. And I made a video recently on the 3 daily habits to overcome procrastination. You can click on the card on the screen to watch that. Alternatively, I made another video called How to Learn Anything 2 times faster with speed learning. Again, you can click on the card on the screen to watch that. And do check out this video's sponsor, NordPass. I really don't know what I'd do without a password manager. Link in the description below.